hamsters, and when it comes to finding information about them, it can actually be quite challenging. When I started my gerbil journey around 2.5 to 3 years ago, I found it very challenging to find information. But I've done lots of research, reading articles, and watching the few YouTube videos out there. I have found out a lot of information. Today, we're going to be talking about a gerbil's enclosure. Gerbils spend a lot of time in their cage, and next to food and water, it is the second most important thing you have to provide for your gerbil. First off, size. Lots of websites say that the minimum is 10 gallons per gerbil, as wire cages aren't suitable for gerbils, but I do not agree with this rule. I think 20 gallons per gerbil is much better, so that would mean 40 gallons bare minimum, more than 2 or more gerbils. For example, my 3 gerbils live in a 75-gallon tank. I always think bigger is better, which is why I went over 60 gallons, which would be the bare minimum, in my opinion, for 3 gerbils, just so they have all the space that they need. Inside a gerbil's enclosure, it is incredibly important to supply them with the correct amount of bedding. Gerbils are burrowers, and in the wild, they would burrow up to 1 meter deep. In captivity, it is quite hard to replicate what they need in the wild, so the best thing we can do for them is give them an appropriate amount of bedding. This consists of at least 6 inches, but I personally recommend 8 or more. If you see your gerbil burrowing, that is a great sign that your gerbil is happy and is appreciative of all the bedding you have given them. If you don't ever see your gerbil burrowing, there's a big chance that you're just not giving your gerbil enough bedding. Gerbils love to build tunnels and have like an underground city for themselves, and it is quite actually fascinating to watch them burrow. Sometimes you'll even have the luxury of having them burrow right up to the glass of your tank, so then you can see them walking through, and I think it's just such a heartwarming experience. The beddings I personally use are Carefresh paper-based bedding, KT Clean and Cozy, and Full Cheeks Aspen bedding. You want to be careful when you are buying aspen shavings that it is low dust, because gerbils have very sensitive respiratory systems and dust can really harm them. When you are putting bedding into your cage, you want to press down on it so that it is compact. 2 reasons are for this, so that A, you give them the appropriate amount of bedding and it's not 50% air underneath all the bedding, and also when they burrow, it is more likely to hold their tunnels. You also want to add hay in your gerbil's enclosure. This may sound silly, as they are not rabbits, but hay is extremely important to help support their burrows, and what they will do is they will chew it and they will bring it down into their burrows, and it'll help hold up their structures. It's also really cute to see them forage for hay. The best hay you can do for your gerbil is Timothy hay, although willow hay is okay as well. Another source of enrichment you can add for hay is you can get a very tiny rabbit hay feeder and just string it to the top of the cage and fill it with hay so that they have to work to get the hay. Whenever it goes empty, you can wait a bit so that they know to use it sparingly, and so you're not giving them too much hay. You also want to make sure you're supplying them with a sand bath, as gerbils are desert animals. In the desert, there is not a lot of water, so they have adapted to bathing themselves in sand. When you are giving them sand, you want to be sure it's not chinchilla dust, because again, dust is really harmful for their respiratory systems. I use the Exoterra desert sand. If you are going to go with reptile sand, such as I do, you want to make sure that it's no calcium, as calcium is no good for gerbils. You also want to be sure you're supplying them with hides, because this also adds another source of enrichment and makes them feel safer. Hides can be kind of tricky to find, as most of them are made out of plastic, but you really want to avoid plastic hides because gerbils will chew everything, including plastic, and if they accidentally digest plastic, it can be good for their digestive systems. That's why tubes and tunnels can be quite hard to find, like the tiny tails. Tubes, those are not suitable for gerbils. I know I have some gerbil in my enclosure, but I am looking for new ones, and they have not started to chew it or anything like that, so far it's safe. You may notice I don't have a wheel, so wheels are not necessary for gerbils, unlike hamsters. Hamsters, you need to supply a wheel because they just need that. Not 100% sure why. Unlike gerbils do not need a wheel, but it is great if you're going to add one. Unlike hamsters, gerbils have a tail, so if it's constantly being bent while they run, it is not good for their tail. If you're looking for a proper size wheel, I recommend the Night Angel wooden wheel, and that can also come with a stand. Or you can get the acrylic Night Angel silent spinner, because that is quite a hard plastic and it's quite hard for them to chew. Something extra you can add to your cages, you can get stuff that hangs from the top, not just stuff that goes underneath. Although the stuff that goes underneath is more important than the stuff that hangs. But this is also another great sort of enrichment. You can also add different textures, such as cocoa powder. I use the cocoa peat from Night Angel, or you can even add forest moss. You want to make sure that the forest moss you are using is not straight out of a craft store or outside, as the outside ones can contain lots of bacteria or be wet, and the craft store ones can also have dangerous stuff, chemicals on the moss. A good moss brand that I recommend is the Night Angel moss. The cocoa peat and the forest Night Angel forest moss are around $15 each, but there is more in the package than you see online. Cardboard is also great for your gerbils because it helps to gnaw down their teeth, which is non-stop growing. So if you ever have toilet paper rolls or paper towel tubes that you are done with, you can always just give that to your gerbils because they are great recyclists. Since gerbils do dig a lot, it is important that you have a divider or some way to section off their sand bath from the rest of their bedding area. You want to keep this area somewhat small. You don't want to do 50-50, as the burrowing area is much more important to gerbils than the other area. As you can see in my enclosure, only a third of the cage is sectioned off for their sand. Dividers can be cardboard, acrylic, or glass. You just want to make sure that it's nothing like plastic that they can then chew. If you do go with a plastic divider, what you can do is you can cover the slit that is in it with terracotta clay and wait for it to dry, as they can't chew terracotta and it's not poisonous for them if they lick it. Anyways guys, that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, feel free to subscribe, it really helps me out. Also, if you guys have any video suggestions that you would like me to do, comment them down below. See you guys next time.